Good day, everyone, this is John here from 3D Create Tutorials, and welcome to this channel. So today we're going to have some fun actually working with poly splines. I'm trying to give everybody kind of an understanding of how this works and why you do certain things to make it a little bit better when you actually want to work in your actual plasticity with a OBJ file and things that you should not do, just to kind of give some clarity. So here we go. We're going to first start off and delete the cube, of course. There's no reason for this cube, because we're going to use the other program. So I'm using Blender 5.0 here. And let's go ahead and open that up. And here we go. We got a basic block or square. I'm going to be basically taking this and modifying it a little bit. And then I'll show you kind of some examples of why we do what we do. So first of all, I'm going to Shift D this so I can make a copy of this. And I'm going to G key this on the X so I can move it over here. I'm going to show you 3 examples of kind of, some ways to work around this. So let's go ahead and copy this one too. And then we're going to do, so that's Shift D again. We're going to do a G key on the X and move it over to the side. So if I go back to object mode in any of these, they're basically very simple cubes. Okay. So we want to make sure that we go to object mode and we can select any of these now, whatever one we want. So let's start off with the basic cube. I'm leaving this alone. This is going to be first cube. So we're going to go ahead and save this, export it out as OBJ, and we can put it wherever we want. Let's just call this cube 1 for clarity. No lines. So we understand what this means. All right, so I'm going to do selection only. I only want to take this one and move it over. So we're going to hit selection only. And I'm going to also do this on the Z up. So it's the same, coordinates. All right, so we can do that. Very simple. Go ahead and export this object now. So that's 1. All right, 2. I'm going to go back in here, go back to edit mode, and we're going to start modifying this. One great thing about this is using the edge loops. You can simply add in some detail, or we can go in and kind of, go back. I'm going to show you some other ideas here, but if we just go into the actual edge mode here, we can subdivide this thing out quite a few times to make it look nice. Now, if I did it one time, you could select this little thing here and kind of just bring this up so you don't have to keep doing it over and over again. So I'm going to control it by just adding in these squares. Now this becomes very busy. As you can see, it's a lot of, polys here, or little squares, and they're all quads, which is great. So if you go back now to object mode, and we can go I'll put this on here so I can see what we're doing as we do this stuff. Yeah, they're all squares. And then you see this one. If you go back to object mode, we can see that this is just, first of all, object mode. We'll go here. And you see it's only so this is 6 polys total compared to this one, which is quite a bit more. So this one will have 726 polys. This one will have 6. And the way to understand that is if you click on it, it tells you right here. Actually, we have 6 faces. So simple. This one has 726 faces. So that's one option, just basic as it is. This is 2 with a bunch of actual squares added in. And then the third option is to control method, which is another way to look at things. So you want to control the amount of polys, and you want to control the actual quads. So how do we do this? We can go in here, simply edit it, and we're going to do loop cuts on this. Really simple. So I'm going to do a loop cut, and we can kind of go in here and just bring it straight up and just put it wherever we want to, right? So I'm going to put a couple control points here and there. I'm going to put one on the side. Getting kind of like squares, basically. And then I put this over here as a square. And so those are good. And then we can go here, same thing. We can go over here, bring it over as a square. This one as a square. And you're kind of just helping define the actual box itself. As you see now, we will have, I'm going to go back to this. Let's go to this. We're going to have exactly a total of really 54 faces, right? So it's a lot less than this, and it's more than that, of course. So for simplicity, maybe I should, this is really the best method to go. So I'm going to go ahead and just select it, go to object mode now. So in object mode, we're going to select it, and we're going to go to file. We're going to export this one now, and this one will be called subdivide. There we go. Okay, so now we've done that. Let's go ahead and now go to the last one that we just did that has a lot more control. And again, they're all quads. This is the goal. Because when you do a poly spline, it's better to have the quads so it's actually nice and clean when you bring it over. So let's go ahead and export this one now. And I'll show you what I mean by what I'm doing here. Export OBJ. Basically this one. Only thing is we're going to reword this here now to control sections or something like that, right? So now again, selection only, override, go ahead, and there we go. All right, so we got all of these 4 actual cubes created, and there's different, ways to create this stuff. This is probably your least amount of polys, and it actually will have a lot better form. This will turn like into a ball. This is a lot of detail, so it's very busy. Got a lot of squares. This is also not the best in the world, the way this is set up. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and hit the actual add modifier. So let's go ahead now. We can select each of these. We can actually do the same thing with all 3 of these. One thing we could do simply is just add them all to one layer. So let's do Control J. Now we got all in one layer. And we can now go in here and add one sub D here. So if I do this, see how everything kind of just changes? Now, this is probably your most easier to keep your block form and most control. This is a lot more control. It keeps some of the roundness, but it's very hard to maneuver this within like plasticity now. This would be easier because you do have some, sections that you can do. So why would you want to go through all this effort, and as well as, with the polygon form and bring it into plasticity? Well, let me show you why. So I'm going to export this out first. Export this out as a OBJ. And we're going to call this test. I'm just going to put it under documents, OBJ, and I'm going to keep it just on this Z and selection only and export. Okay. So these are all being exported out and they're finished on the bottom there. And let's go now into plasticity. Now in here, I'm going to import the actual object, test, open. There we go. So we got our cubes. And like I was saying before, this is probably one of the most easier ones to work with. We're going to go in here and just make sure we hit OK, because you can't do anything until you do that. As you see, everything kind of turned into something, right? And one thing is that we got these all here. It's easy now to go into the poly spline. So hit F key, and in here you're going to do a search for a poly. Once you find your poly splines, you can click on this, or we can actually, hit this here, and we could assign it as a shortcut, or assign it to favorites, which I already have. So it's going to say remove. I don't want to do that. So let's just go ahead and hit this poly splines, and we're going to hit OK. This is fine the way it is. See, this is what it's going to look like. This is still got a nice smooth form because it's a quad object, and this is really, really busy. I would most likely pick this one in most cases. It just depends what you're trying to do, right? So I'm going to pick this one, but let's go ahead and just hit OK. So now that I've done that, I can go in here and kind of, work with this now. And let's just say you wanted to kind of cut the sides here at a different angle just to make it look interesting. And we can do that real simply by adding a box. So let's add a box. Go to the side here and just create a box. Something like this, like that, and fine with that. We can now move this over. We can move it into space, the actual space here. We're going to bring it down. As you see here, we can kind of go right to the corner here. I'm going to go to the top view to make sure I line this up perfectly. See, this would be perfect if it was like right there, right there. If I want to cut this out perfectly. The only thing is I would also want this to be kind of at a smooth kind of transition. So I'm going to go to this angle here. I'm going to rotate this now, kind of like at, I would say 45-degree angle. So let's type that in. hit enter. Okay, now we could just G key it and move it a little bit into the space. Now I want to try to hit right on those edges. So bring this down a little bit, bring this down a little bit. We can go right to the edge here. Kind of, I think right about there is good. Okay, so we got this kind of worked out. The other thing is I would do is I would go to the top here and I would rotate it on the top here. So rotate, V key, I would bring it right there. I would just do this again. We're going to rotate this around. Actually do 45 degrees. Hit enter. Okay. So now I got a perfect cut, but I also need to move this over now. So let's just G key it, move it over. I kind of want to get this so it passes that edge right there. Now we got a problem here, right? So we can just make this simple. I can go in here and kind of just use this to kind of help me cut that properly. Okay, so that way we're going to have a perfect cut on the sides. And we can also move it G key a little bit just to kind of make it more centered. I think we'll go to the top view. And we'll just move it like this. So it kind of is, it'll blend in really nicely there. Okay, cool. So we got that now. We can go to the Z. And I can actually now mirror this to make it easier. Actually, we can do this. Just do opposite. Okay. This actual square is not on the 0. So let's go ahead and do that first. I'm going to move this over so the line is lined up with this line, right? There we go. And this one can move over just a smidgen. A smidgen this way. Just trying to get this kind of lined up. Maybe a little bit more out. Trying to even this out here. Okay, cool. So I think that's good. Now I can go in here and just delete this one. So let's do this again. We're going to mirror this. Mirror. Here we go. For some reason it keeps going way over here. That's okay. We'll just do something like this. Hit OK. Okay, let's just do this again. We're going to do G key, V. I'm going to put this right down the center. Now I can go in here and hit the mirror. And for some reason, again, it's going right to the center. That's okay. We're just going to go to opposite and hit OK. I can take these down, these two, and shift. This is first to go, hit OK. Select these two, and we can move these into place. So something like this. Go a little bit more. I want these to kind of be, again, very similar. There we go. So very simple. This would be kind of hard to do in a 3D program with the forms. Now I could just go in here and just select these, hit the Q key. There we go. And accept, and there we go. All right, so yeah, that would be really difficult to do in a regular program. Okay, so we got these forms, right? And we can now go in and just kind of modify these real simply, just by selecting the line, hitting Alt key, select the line, and then we can just kind of pull this out if we wanted to. If we go on the negative, again, it will be actual chamfer. If we go on the plus, it'll be a nice fillet. So we can simply just add in that extra detail we wanted, just like that, and hit OK. Now we can also hide the lines and just see what this is looking like. And that would be really complicated to do in a 3D program. Again, this is another reason why it's just easy to kind of use the polyspline opportunities. So now another thing we can do here, since we already got this created, we can just go in and kind of just select these, hit the O key. So again, let's do O, pull it out. I want this to be easy enough to actually do. I'm going to go here, Control C, and hit OK. Okay, same thing here. O, pull it out. Again, I'm not sure exactly what that is, so I'm going to do Control V, hit OK. There we go. And I could do these other two later. Let's just do this. We'll do one at a time. E key. E key. And yeah, just really simple, right? I could actually go in here now and hit these harsh lines right in here. Shift. Shift. Pull these out nice and smooth. And there we go. Now we got our form back. Okay. We can also do something like this. And again, same thing. We could go here. Actually, a square is a square is a square. So once we get one side done, it's very simple, right? So let's just do this. Kind of just make this nice and smooth. I might do something like kind of like that. Now, if that doesn't work, we can just do one at a time. Let's just do this. Again, we can do this in a program if we wanted to. You don't always have to do this. It's just preference for me right now. All right, so I'm just going to go here and do this one. I think that'll look kind of cool. All right, cool. So now we got a cool form and real simple. We got everything aligned. So let's go back in and now kind of adjust this. This is the one that we just did. I want everything to be the same. So let's just go here. All right, so we can actually just delete this. So delete, delete, delete. Since I chose this one, we can go back here and we can move it into place. So it's just easier when we assemble this again. Get a little closer. Let's get it lined up exactly on the 0, 0. And this one is a little bit off. Actually, I think right there is good. Hit OK. All right, so what we can do now is just mirror this. So mirror. I want to copy this one to the other side, just like that. And I also want to copy this to the other side, just like that. Oops. First of all, this one like this. Hit OK. And, oops, Control Z. Do this one more time. Mirror. Opposite side. One of the things we always want to do is merge. It's just easier this way. Hit OK. And we can do this again. Mirror. Opposite side this time. There we go. Merge. And hit OK. There we go. So now we have our perfect triangle. Very cool. Imagine trying to do this in a 3D program. It would be very difficult. But again, very simple here. So yeah, there we go. And we go in here and just kind of cut it up, make it easy. Real easy to do things like that, right? So we can do something like this. We can take this and do the C key, modify it, simple. Again, we can go back in here now, just add some different, we can delete this. We can actually pull this out, make it nice tight form, like that. And same with this one. Pull this out. Go plus if we want, or negative, whatever we want. Okay. And now we got two forms. So I kind of wanted to also touch on this because this is important to understand. Why would we even want to entertain, using polyspline or a quad model or like a model coming from Blender or Lightwave or something like that? Why would we entertain that? Well, in the reality of things, there's benefits to both type of programs, right? Quad-based programs they're difficult to make quads, but they're much easier to kind of create forms and pull them and get them, adjusted and, into a position of what you want very easily and quickly. With CAD plasticity, it's kind of difficult to kind of create forms. It does, I mean, there's options to make forms, but it does take a lot of work to get some of these lines to reconnect to each other when you're pulling things away from each other or taking stuff away and reconnecting everything. There is work in that. So it's a benefit, either way. I mean, if you have the ability to do it, that's great. But if you kind of want to create your form in like a, like regular modeling program, then it might be worth, entertaining that, for instance. So what I mean by this, I'll show you some examples, okay? So I'm going to go to the top here and just kind of create some stuff in Blender. I just thought this would be easier to understand if I do these things. So I'm just going to create a plane, right? So the plane's simple, right? You got your object here, and we can actually now add in some stuff, for instance. So if I add in like a loop cut here, I could do that real simple. I could add a loop cut here, and then we can go in and kind of just start, modifying things. So I could take these points now. Let's just go ahead and select this here. Make it a little easier for me. And I want to move this down on the actual Z. We can move it down. Now we've kind of done this. Now things that make it a lot easier is now we can go in here and just do scale on the actual Y. Bring those in. And again, I mean, you could do all this kind of stuff, but it does take a little bit of effort. So again, scale on the Y, bring that in. And we kind of have a form, right? And then we can go in and kind of just add more detail to this. So for instance, if I go here and I do Control B, I could kind of now pull in, a section here, just to give it a little bit more form. Again, we don't have to add a lot because we're going to bring it in as a polygon. We have ability to, it makes it smooth, depending on how many cuts you have, of course. But if you don't put a lot of cuts here, this will smooth out. So keep that in mind. All right, so we got this form, and let's say we want to add something to this. So how would we go about that? Well, we can do an inset. For instance, we can go, let's just say we want to add something to the side here. And let's just do that real quickly. I'm going to select the actual face here, the polygon like that. And I'm going to go in and inset it. This will be the first thing to help get your control points kind of worked out. So I'm going to bring this inward like that. I'm doing this to help kind of create this. So another thing I would do is I would just go ahead and get rid of this. So this polygon, I'm going to delete it, get rid of it completely. And the reason for that is that way I can continue to model this. So let's go ahead and go with the points for now. And we can go back to the top view on the Z. And then I can move those over. So G key, and just kind of get this lined up as much as we can at the same angle. So now we have, quads throughout. That's kind of the objective here. All right. I can now go back in and add more detail to this if I want, or I could actually add some other things to this. So, I mean, we could go in here and just keep this form to kind of help control that. We can go back in here now and just kind of, let me just go and select this. And this gives you that, ability to kind of go in here and again, we can inset again if we want to. So let's say we want to do this, and that's fine. Now we got another section here. We can also, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we select this one. First of all, we'll just get rid of this again. Delete, face. We can take this one now and move it inward. Let's go to the side here. G key, and move it in, like that. And we could also now go back to the Y and scale it. So scale, kind of bring it together, and there we go. So what we've done now is we've got a control of this form. So this is kind of why there's opportunities here to make this a better situation. So here, I would bring this closer to help hold that space. I would bring one up here as well to hold the space. And what that has done, it helps us control the actual form inside, if that makes sense. Now the thing is what I would not want is this like bringing this back up. I'd want this all the way down. So I'm going to go in here and select these few polygons here. I'll make sure the polygon selection is good there. We'll go here and just delete those. So delete faces, right? And this one here, delete face. And the objective here is to keep this form. Now that I've done all that work, we kind of need to go in and just select all these points right here that are part of this, right? Go to the Z, and we can go in here now and hit we can go actually scale, and we can do this on the actual Y. So it completely goes straight, right? We want to make sure that this is completely straight. So let's do it like this. Yeah, I understand this is not the right angle, but we can now move this G key. First of all, let's control this G key and move this inward on the Y just to kind of get, the form. We can go all the way down till it actually is lined up kind of like that. Okay. Now we can go in, and again, we can either move each one in, or another way you can do this is to rotate the whole thing and get it at a certain angle. But I'm just going to do it real simply, just with the angle. So let's just do that real simply. G on the Y, something like this. Another good way to do this, just for reference, is to draw a line. So let's just do that real quick. Actually, we can just take this, for instance, this line here. First of all, select it, line, Shift D, right? We can bring it over here, right click. I'm going to take the points, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm doing this to make it easy. So I'm going to select just the one point. Actually, what I'll do first of all, I'm going to take this. Let's just hide this. Let's just go ahead and hide these. Hide. So H, so I can see my line, right? So now I got this line here. G key, I'm going to bring it all the way over here and kind of get it right next to this point, right? So I can use this to help me, with these other points. So there we go. So very simply, we got to now take these points and kind of just move them over. So let's just do that real quickly. So we're going to go here, G key on the Y. I just go from one end to the other. G key on the Y. Okay, I'm going to fast forward this part of it. I'm going to get rid of this line, delete, edge, right? And now I could add in a control line here. So again, loop cut, let's bring this in. I want to hold this edge. I want to hold this edge over here. I'm going to hold this edge over here. And this one over here. This way, when I convert it, it'll be that much nicer. So how do we, know how this is going to look? Before we even entertain bringing in plasticity, we could add a modifier in here. So under modifiers, we go to plus. We're going to go to generate. We're going to go to the subdivision surface, and there we go. And we can bring this up to like 2 or something like that. I could take this off, and I could take and make this a solid. Now, you'll see that looks kind of crappy, right? But we can go in here, object mode, right click, shade smooth, and that's going to give you that kind of that look, right? Now, what if you don't want it rounded on in? So this is the time to do these things. So we can simply go in, edit, mode. We can add another control line right here on the side. See how it's just that simple, right? Just adding that extra line. The only problem with this is once you do this, it kind of, you know, makes the extra detail in here a lot harsher. And to get around that is you just go in here and kind of just maneuver things so we can actually take away that harsh edge. Because again, whenever you start adding or introducing something, it's going to cause other problems. So we can take these two, this one, this one, this one, take this one off, and this one, take this one off, take this one off. Make sure nothing else is selected right. We go back to the Z key and kind of move this, you know, I'll go with the points, I guess. Maybe I'll leave this one alone. Control Z. We could take this one off and this one off, right? And just move those down. So G key on the Y, and this will help, you know, flatten that out. So it's not so harsh. Okay, there we go. So now if I go back to object mode, you'll see that it keeps the form. And it does, you know, make some not very smooth here. So you got to be kind of cautious of what you're doing. So we go back to edit mode. This is the part of the problem. Yeah, I mean, we got the great control points inside. We still have, you could even possibly just get rid of this whole line here. So let's try to do that. Let's just go ahead and select this Alt key. Since I've already got this here, let's do a delete. And we're going to actually do the dissolve edge. All right, so now we just got controls here. And you'll see that if I go to the side here, it is rounded right there. It's rounded here, but it's not so rounded here. So how do we get around that? Bring this back up a little bit. I want to go through see-through mode to see what we're looking at. And you have the curvature. And kind of the other issue is that in here, we don't have a good control. So we can go in here and kind of add in something in here too. So what are we looking at here? If we look at this line here, it kind of has a form that goes around, right? And it gets kind of blocky right in here because of the added detail. So it would be, I think, better if we can just take these lines and kind of just bring them up a little bit. That way we kind of form this properly. So let's just do that. So I'm going to take these lines. I'm going to take these right here. I'm going to just use the control key to get rid of these. And I'm going to take this one here. I'll take these as well and deselect those. And this line here and deselect this one. And the idea here now is to kind of just go to the side and kind of bring that up a little bit just to kind of smooth it out a little bit. So let's do that. G key. And just bring it upward. You see how it's more rounded now? It's causing that roundness. You don't want to take it too far up, but right about there, let's say. The other thing is this is not divided very well, so I would also suggest that you add in one more control loop here, because this way you can actually divide that in half. I would not touch these in the center here, so we can go back here and deselect everything here. However, I would select these right here. This way, when you go up into the side here, you see that we can G key this up now and just make that nice and rounded there, just like that. And I think it'd be helpful if this point was a little bit higher as well. See how it's kind of like, it's not where it should be. I think these points need to go up a little bit more. So this one, see, this is up higher. I need to really take all these up a little bit. G key on the Z and just bring them upward. I want this to be a straight line. See, right, this line here is what you want to kind of maintain. Okay. All right, so let's go back to object mode and see how that looks. There we go. So yeah, we have a nice, smooth form, and we have it controlled. Now, the idea here is to take this and just bring it in. So I'm going to take this off. There's no need for this, right? We can just exit out of here. We've got our form, and we know what it's going to look like in a sense. So let's go back to object mode, select it, and we're going to export this out and to see what this helps us with. So export OBJ. And this is going to be form this time. Simple as that. I'm going to keep everything the way it was. Selection only, overwrite. Go ahead and send it. Go back in here, and we can just hide these for now. For clarity, I'm going to get rid of this line. Delete. Okay, so we're going to import this now as an OBJ form, right? There we go. So you'll see that, if you're looking at this, it's very blocky, right? Let's hit OK. So now we can actually move it around, do whatever we want with it, right? However, it looks very, not very good. So again, hit the F key, polyspline. There we go. Now what this has done is completely made everything very smooth and clean. You could take this off if you want or keep it on. It's up to you. I'm going to say OK. And what that has done is now created a nice, very functional form. So if I take this off, you'll see that we have a very smooth transition, and it's just an easy way to bring in like a quad-based, form and have that control. Now, again, this is a good example of why you do this, because this is, say you want to recreate this and you don't like the way these are kind of, maybe a little bit of misform. When you're doing quad modeling, it's not always an easy solution to make everything perfectly smooth. It takes a lot of work to get everything smooth. And this is, say you want to just use the form to create what you want. Again, you could have just brought this form in, not this, and then cut it in. So again, you have a lot of opportunities here to kind of make that happen. So I could just go in here and kind of use this to help me out. I'm going to go over here, then go over here, and then over here. And that's one line, right? So there's that. See how it's kind of now, it's very, it's very smooth and round, because it was deformed a little bit in here because of those extra lines. So same thing here. I would go back in and use this. This is just a lot of different techniques, to think about while you're doing this stuff. It's like, what is your, what is the overall objective that you have in creating your model, right? You want something clean, smooth. So here, for instance, maybe here, you always do it wherever you want. And the main thing is just getting your line out. So now we got these two lines. We can simply just go in here now, take these and loft them. So loft, and there we go. And you'll see that we kind of have that. We can now go in and just take this and thicken it. So thicken. We can bring it downward like this to create, some type of, area or panel, whatever you want to call it. There we go. And it's that simple. We can actually say, okay. We can also now go over here to the side view, and let's think about this, right? We want to cut this out. So how do we do this? We could do a simple square, kind of like this. Bring it over here. We can bring it over here. Let's say we want to get real close to what we have, right? There we go. And then we can just kind of take the points and move them around. All I want is this one and this one. Just move this in a little bit. See, this will give us a very clean form. And the idea here is, again, we can take this one, cancel. I kind of want to just take the points. So this one, this one, just trying to make this, a little bit more representative of that. Kind of like this. All right, so we can now go in and just take this form right here and just bring it down. So let's go back to the side. I'm going to extrude it down. See, again, it's not the right angle that we want, which is not a big deal. We can now go in and kind of we can make these nice and clean. We can take this edge. So it's already straight. Let's do this quickly. We're going to make this a nice smooth form, kind of like that. Hit OK. We can now go to the front view here. We can rotate this now and just get it lined up where both are at a good angle. I think something like that. You want a little bit higher on the top one. Just like this. G key, move it over a little bit. And now we're kind of lining up with the space, and we can bring this in. We can bring it over a little bit more. Again, it just depends what you're trying to create. I kind of like that. And the reason for this is now that we've done this, we can go in and kind of just get rid of this line, delete it. And we can actually go in and take this and bring it down. No need for it to be that high. Let's just go about here, right? And we could simply take these two forms now. We've got to get rid of this surface form, though. This is sometimes a problem. You don't realize you have it here. Just delete that. All right, so what we can do is select this one, Q key, and hit OK. All right, so we got the form, we got this. The only thing I don't like the fact that this is too high. I would like to, basically scale this in. So I think I'm going to redo this whole thing. Let me just start over. I want to use this line. See, we can hide this for now. I kind of want to use this line. So I want to use this line here. So Alt. Okay, we got it. Created. I'm going to go to the side here. I'm going to Shift D this. So that is good. I'm going to Shift D again and G key and bring it downward. I'm going to try to keep that angle right here. I'm also going to scale this in now. Kind of like that. And I don't want it to scale in this direction, right? So that's the actual X. So we're going to keep this at 1 tab. That way it keeps that form. All right, so we got this and that. So we can just take this for a second here and hide it. Because I'm trying to use the lines here to help me with this. I can take this one here and hide them. Hide. All right, so what would be the objective to do for this? So, I could close this up if I wanted to. So we can do something like this. So let's just do this real quick. Right here to close it. And the same thing here. Right here to close it. We can take these two now and join them. Hit OK. You take this one and join it. Okay. And then we can take this one and loft. L. So that has created this really cool form. Right? And what we would also do is we would take this now here. We could do a Shift X, delete that, take these lines, delete them. There's no need for those. Now, if it's too far, too deep, that's fine. We can go in here and just cut this in half, something like this. Actually, I'll do the selection like this. C key, this, hit OK. What that's done is give us the ability to delete this now. And now that I've done that, we can go in and kind of just really, I don't need to do anything here because I want that to be open. But I do want this to be thicker. I'm going to go back in here now and hide this because earlier I made this thick, right? I got to kind of fix this now because I need to work with a surface I mean, I could make the other one a actual solid, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take this one here, this here, this here. Just kind of go around real quickly and just add this extra detail. I want to make sure I don't get the top piece, you know. So right here and right here. There we go. Now we got all those done. We can do just a Shift X. And now we have a surface. So right here, you'll see that it is a sheet. And this is a sheet, right? This is the problem right here. We got one in here we missed. So let's get rid of that. So right here, let's just go around. Make sure we get the whole thing selected. Got everything there, here. Yeah, it's a little tricky sometimes to figure out what's going on with your model. Right here, here. Once we do this, it should be simple. So Shift X, that's gone. All right, so let's try this again. So this one, Q, hit OK. It's now become one object. Perfect. Now what we can do is we can take this and thicken it. But I would also suggest that you kind of just go in here and just, first of all, I would add in a little detail to this. For instance, right here, make this more of a smooth transition. So we could pull this out, kind of like that. Depends on how tight you want that, just like that. Before you thicken it, so what would you do to make that work? You'd go over here and kind of just close this off. So that way it's completed. So you got these two. We got this right here. Let's just do line. This, okay, that could be a Shift D, right? And then we can just take this one, J key. Okay. And with that done, now we have a form that's closed. Now, if it's not closed, we can just do patch. So patch it. Okay. We can get rid of the lines. So we can get rid of this line. Delete it. And now we got these two things, right? And we can go in and, all right, so this and this. Q, give it a second. It's all blue, so we should be good. Hit OK. There we go. And sometimes this takes a little bit of effort to get, you know, the form. Now, again, I would suggest that you go in and kind of, so let's go and take this sheet and just select this and pull this out. And what we're doing here is we're going to add a nice smooth, you know, transition there. Hit OK. Again, it's one on form. And yeah, there we go. So we got our sheet. Let's thicken it now. Do this. Thicken here. Pull it out. Inward. I wouldn't go too far with it. Just got to be thin. Because of these fillets, it causes it to be a little tighter there, but that's fine. We can hit OK. Now we actually have a solid. And yeah, there we go. We got a very clean shape just by using, you know, poly splines to bring that in, to work with it, to figure out, you know, a better solution, a better, cleaner object. And we have a very, very clean model now. Now, let's just say you don't like the fact that this sticks out a little bit here, right? Because of the pull, we can simply go in and just cut that out real easily. Just hit this. We're going to select way over here. Select way over here. Just like that. Now that we've got this line, I'm going to go in and we're going to go in and basically, so we're going to extend this with the F key. So hold on, let's go back here. F key, extend. And this will give us the ability to kind of just move this at the same exact angle, right? Same with this one. So hit OK. We're going to go here, F key, extend. And we could always put this as a shortcut, but see, that way I got a line all the way through. And the idea here is that you don't want to, if you pull it, it's going to go straight. It won't work the way you think it's going to work. So this is just the easier way to kind of get this to work right. So again, let's go and select this C key now, and we can select this now, and this will cut this little piece out. And if it's not really working, we can do that to see if it worked. If it did work, that's fine. If not, just pull it in a little bit more. Get rid of this now, and now we have a very clean, cut. And yeah, that's pretty much the way to kind of work with splines and polys. And if you want very clean shapes, you can just go back and kind of readjust it or remodel it. I could have done a little bit different in here too, like brought this in closer and make different forms. But again, it's just easier to create like these specific sections. You can always do this with a quick line, of course, but if you want to get perfect alignment to some model that you're actually working on, and this is exactly the form, then you'd want to bring this in and do all those things with the poly spline as an understanding. All right, so let's start off with another example of why poly splines would be very helpful. So say you're in Blender and you're trying to create your actual quad mesh, and we're going to go in here and kind of just start the process here. So I'm going to first go ahead and add in a mesh, and I'm going to add in a plane. Very simple, right? A few things I'm going to be doing is adding in some other things. So let's go ahead and go to the edit mode. And in edit mode, you had auto mirror. If you don't have this set up, make sure you do it in preferences. There's an auto mirror function that you guys select if you want to use this. I'm also going to make this editable, and I'm going to do it just exactly on the X. So it's going to be basically down the center. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to apply the mirror once we're ready. So we can do that now. So if we applied it, you'll see that we can do auto mirror now. Edit mode. And you see that we can't see it unless we go to edit mode, right? We got that line now down the middle. And that's exactly what we want. So this is real simple to use now that we've done this. So we can go ahead and start extruding all this stuff. A couple of things I'd like to do, though, is add a few more things here. So we would want to add in a subdivision surface like this. And we can make that like 2. And that will help us kind of break this up a little bit. And I'm not going to have it on edit mode, so it won't show in edit mode, only on the actual object mode, which is a good thing. We're also going to add in another modifier, which is the actual solidify. So this gives us some thickness, and we could add a little bit of thickness to this. One thing I'll do is I'll put this over on the top, so that actually the first thing that actually hits, we could do like something like 0.3 or something like that, just to give it some thickness. All right, so we've done that. Now if I go back to object mode, you'll see it kind of has a little bit of thickness to it. We can actually make this a little bit bigger. See how it kind of this expands? Maybe I'll go like 14 or something like that. And we can say even thickness if you want. It just depends on what you want here, but I'll go with even thickness. And we can only do the rim if we want. I mean, there's a lot of different options here, but I'm going to keep it just the way it is. Because again, this is to help me kind of just drive this down. One thing I'm going to do is also select this so it's not on, when it's in edit mode, it will not show, only in object mode. So there we go. All right. So we got a very simple, object right now. We got just the line here, and we have the selection of the line. So what we can do here is we can start extruding this. So we can E, Z, and this down, right? We can go to the side view here. One thing we got to make sure that we have is on the see-through mode, so that way it'll actually go all the way through. So we can do that now. This is 2 points, make it simple, right? G key on the X, and you can start pulling it out, right? So I want to kind of have a nice little leading edge there. And this is going to be very helpful when I start creating the actual sections here. So we can now select this and this. We could actually extrude, and on the Y, bring it out. We can also scale this in if we want. So hit the S. So again, we can just kind of bring this inward. We can go to the side. G key, we can kind of bring it inward and down if we want. So it has a form. And yeah, that's pretty much the way this thing works. We can now go back in and do auto mirror. One thing that's not working is the whole thing, so let's go ahead and select the whole object. Let's go back to edit mode. We can select all these sections here. The problem is this is not centered, so we want to take this point. It's real simple. We just got to make sure that this here is all the way over. So G key on the X and bring it over like this, right? So that way we can now do auto mirror and it's centered exactly where we want it. A couple things we need to still do again is, we got a nice little edge here. We can also now take and maybe extrude this again. So let's try that. So this time we're going to take this, and we're going to extrude on the actual Y. So bring this out. And I'm going to go to the points now. Keep that one point alone so we don't have to worry about that anymore. We can go to the Y here and we can scale this down. So scale down and G key, bring it inward. So something like that. We could probably do something like this, G, just to kind of get it a little bit over. And we're going to also go to the top view because I want to make sure that this is lined up as well. It is lined up exactly on the center. So now that we've done this, we can go to auto mirror, and yeah, that's pretty simple, right? So go back to object mode. It has some thickness. Another thing that we would want to do is, of course, smooth shade. So select it, smooth shade, and that's starting to look really nice. Now I'm gonna add some things here. So let's go ahead and add a little bit more detail. So let's go back to edit mode. We want some control points in here to help, tighten this up a little bit. So we can bring an edge loop here over here to the side. We can bring one over here to this side. And this way we have a nice form. We can also bring one along this side just to kind of give it a nice edge. And again, auto mirror, it's fine. So right now we don't have any thickness, so we can go back to object mode and see how that's looking. Now, if you want to have a nice, tight edge, we can do that just simply by adding more detail into the object. And one way to do that is to add it right in here. So we can bring this way up. We can bring this up. This will give us a nice trailing edge along this piece. And if we wanted to do something else, we can also do one here as well. So we can bring one here and one here. And this will give us a nice tight form as well. So it just depends on your form, right? So do a lot of experimentation when you're creating your objects just to see what you want. Now, I do like this. I don't like this. So I would go back and do this. So again, just depends what you want. So went too many times here. That's okay though. We can do another edge loop here and bring this in. Now, one way to make, the leading edge go from small to big is to separate this out as it goes down. So that's an easy way to control this. Okay, so if I bring this over here and I want this to be a little bit tighter here and then thinner here, we can do that by just spreading this. And it's a real simple way to do it, but we just I'm going to leave it as is for now, just because I was just showing you an example here to make this easy. So I keep using my mouse key there. Anyway, so once we have the design that we like, we can now go in and we can take this here, for instance, go selection. You can go here, select the whole thing with the Alt key, G key on the Z, and that brings it up like a nice angle. Now, if you don't want this piece here to be so high, we can go in and just adjust. So we can go back in and select this section here only, G key on the Z, something like that, right? And yeah, I think that's going to look nice. So let's go and take a look at it. Object mode. So now you got a nice leading edge. Not on this side though, because again, we have to still, do the actual auto mirror. And there we go. So now you got your nice form. And another thing why you might want to do this in poly spline is you say you want to add some cuts into this, right? And every time you cut into this, you're going to have to go in. Let's just say we go ahead and complete the solidify. Now, if you think this is thick enough, go with it. So we can actually apply this. So apply. Again, once you do this, you can't go back, right? And we can go back in here now and take a look at edit mode. And now we got some thickness. We actually basically just did extrude. And if we want to continue to keep that, we could actually just add in a nice, line here and a line here. And this will hold our form. So now if we go back to object mode, you'll see that we have a nice form. And it's very, detailed and easy, smooth, and very organic as well. So once we do this, we can again auto mirror. And now both sides are completely done with the same thing. And there we go. All right, so we got our object ready to go. And we can take a look at this. So let's go to edit mode. And we can go, first of all, to actually back to object mode. We have a lot of detail here. Now, it's actually not as much as you think, because once you actually do this, you're going to have a lot of polys, but you're not able to really see this. It just doesn't give you that opportunity, right? So one thing we can do is we could actually just go ahead and complete this subdivision. And let's see what that looks like when we do this. So let's go and apply. We go undo, apply. There we go. Now if we go in here to this mode, in this mode, you'll see how much more detail you have, right? And it's really busy. Do we want all this detail? So when we take this into the other program, you're going to have a lot of polys. So keep that in mind. It's just going to be very, very busy. So what I would recommend is going like to the least amount, maybe 1, just like that. Or you could just keep it just the way it is, because it is a quad model. So when you bring it in, it's going to do the same thing anyway. So I'd keep it just the way it is. So we're going to export this out just the way it is. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. This is more of an example of what it would look like. And again, that gives us an understanding. So we can go in here now and just select it, file, export as an OBJ. So as OBJ, we're going to do a form. Let's just do form 3 under documents, and we're going to make sure that this is on the Z and selection only. All right, so let's go ahead and export that. All right, cool. So now actually in Plasticity, this is like one of the new versions, 26 point something, 26.2. Again, I get the continual upgrade. So I'm going to now bring this in. So I'm going to import this in. Again, this is another example of what you can do. So if you bring this in, it's very blocky, right? And that's fine. Because again, now if you want it here, you could leave it right where it is and hit OK. Or if you want to move it, you can't really do anything to this until you actually say OK. So keep that in mind. So hit the OK. Once you do this, you can move it. And undo, because I want to keep it right where it is. So when I bring it back in, it's perfectly aligned. And now we can go to the F key. And we're going to do poly spline. Now, if you don't have it in here, just type it in poly spline. I added this to my favorites. So let's do this. And now you see that it has a nice form and it has an edge, which we had originally. So it's the same form that we had. So the question is, why would we want to do this? So let's say we want to add a lot of detail along this edge here, like some type of, nice rounded, cuts. If you want to do this in 3D, let's just say this is the perfect object that you had and you got the form and it's exactly what you want. And the only thing you want to do is add that detail. This is so much easier in here to add that detail without doing, quads and all that stuff. So it just depends on your workflow and what you want, of course. So I'm going to hit OK. And now that I've done that, it's actually, now we take the lines off. You see the form is very smooth. And yeah, very simple, right? So, okay, let's go ahead and do an example of what I am discussing here. So if we're on the top view, I'm going to create another form. So real simple. We're going to create a box. So let's go to the box. And we're going to create something about this long, just like that. And I'm going to hit OK. I'm also going to hit the points. So if I get these there and I actually do a B key, I can start pulling this out, making this rounded, like nice and smooth. So we're doing that on a plus, so we get a nice rounded fillet. If we go negative, it's going to be a nice sharp edge. So let's go with that. And there we go. Simple, right? So we're going to go in now and just take this and extrude it. So we're going to extrude this down just like that. Now, to do something like this, it'd be, it'd take a little time to do this in actually Blender or any other 3D program. But so I'm going to select this and pull this out. I'm going to go with more of a chamfer on this one. So I'm going to negative. We can see what we're doing here. We're going to move it over. So we can actually bring up, the higher you bring it up, you're going to get to a point where it gets too close to the edge. It becomes a problem. So I'm just going to go with something like this because I already got this tight curves here. If these were not tight, then I can go a lot longer. So let me undo this here so you can see different ways to do this, right? So if you don't like, you want to have a lot more extension, you can just get rid of these. So delete these. It becomes more of a square again. I can delete this one and this one. It's very simple to do. We can now go back in. I want to make sure that this is on see-through mode. So we can bring this down. So I got all 4 of them selected now. And we can go in and kind of just, do this like a little bit thicker. Now that I've done this, now we have a better opportunity here. So we can actually do a little bit farther up with something like that, right? Because it's a lot wider. So keep that in mind when you're trying to build this stuff. It's like, how much of a bevel do you want? What do you really want out of this? So we're going to go with this for now. And there we go. We can also go in here now, select both of these, and just add a little bit of a fillet there just to make it smooth. Okay. So it's looking really cool. I'm going to hit OK. I'm also going to go here. Actually, that one's already done. Just make sure. I'll bring this in just a little bit like that. There we go. Now we can also put in some stamps. So try to imagine trying to do this on a 3D program. We're going to do something like this. Real simple. I'm going to move this over. So let's go ahead and move this over here. And hit OK. I'm going to also now go ahead and just put this in. So E to extrude in. And just like that. Okay. So we got now a form. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. I'm also going to go back to the side here. I think we'll go one more time. And I'm going to mirror this over to the other side. So mirror. V key. I'm going to go right down to center, or F key. Just like this. That way we can perfectly align it again. And again, what we can do here is just take this and hide it for a second. And let's modify these ends. Again, this is so simple to do with this program. Let's just go ahead and pull this in. I'm going to do this on a negative to get a nice form. See, that is nice. Hit OK. And we can go down and do this, this, and this. And just pull this out just a little bit. Again, you don't have to add these bevels if you don't want to. You could always do it later on in the program. I kind of like to do it early, but everybody has a different preference on what they want to have show, right? So now I'm going to do this. We're going to do, actually, no, what's easier is actually we're just going to do this and hit the O key and bring it down. And I'm going to copy this. Control C. Hit OK. I could have done one copy or done one of these that didn't mirror it, but that's okay. O key. And we're going to make sure it's exactly the same. Or we can change it if we wanted to, right? Just depends what you want. Control V. Hit OK. All right, now we can go in and take these and extrude them. See, we just didn't have to do anything, right? Just like that, simple. All right. So now we've done this, we can go back in. Take these sections here, this section here, and we can kind of just form it. Again, there we go. And this one I'm not going to even do anything with it, just leave it alone. So now I'm going to unhide this other object. So unhide it. There we go. So let's go ahead and now use this, this in Q. So we're going to cut these into this space, just like that, simple. And we got some cool forms. And we can now get rid of these, forms. I don't want these in my way. Again, I can go back in now and select this. And again, we do something like that if we wanted. But I'm going to do both of them at the same time. Just like that. Hit OK. And then we can go back in, select this one, pull it out just a little bit, make it more soft. And we can also do this one and this one, make this more soft. And there we go. So now we got our nice little section here. We can take this and start using it. So let's go to the side view. Again, this is just an example of how we can use, this technique to make things really cool. So actually, let's just take this and move it over. So I'm going to get rid of this here. And now we could take this, use it, and use it. So Z key. We're going to move this over like this. We're going to rotate it, kind of at a funny angle, kind of like this. And I can move it something like this. And let's go back to the side here. I'm going to use the G key and move this over. Let's just say you wanted to do something like this, and you wanted to do like a combination of these things. You can do something like this. I would actually bring this down to like maybe 3 and kind of line them up so they're even. And how do we do that? We can actually go along this curve if we wanted to, just like that. And another option we can do is just take one at a time and kind of rotate it so it can kind of follow the curvature. Now if you want to make sure that it exactly lines up the right way, I would also rotate it with the V key. So V key, and we can hit the center here, just kind of rotate it around, just like, see how that kind of is following that kind of that curvature there. Same thing here. R key, V key, and we could rotate it kind of like that. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's kind of like what you want, of course. V key here and rotate it just like that. Okay, I'm going to fast forward this part of it until I get to the point where they're all straight. Shift, Alt. Okay, now we kind of pull this out. Nice chamfer. There we go. Okay, cool. So again, we can now go in and simple. We can take this whole object and mirror it. So mirror, just like that. And I'm going to go with the opposite side. So there we go. I'm also going to make sure that I union these and hit OK. Now we got one full object that is done. All right, so now that we've done this, we can just export it back into Blender. So I'll show you what that looks like. So back in Blender, we're going to actually now import this in. So import, OBJ, and this should be on the Z, just like that. And import. There we go. So we can go back now to this, and we can take this off. And we could take this other one that we had done originally and move it back. You see how it's all lined up now, perfectly aligned? So it's a really good thing, because if we want to replace an object exactly where it was with the new object, it's that simple, right? So yeah, that's really easy to do. And we have our form and able to cut into it with all these different things that would be, let's just put it this way, it'd be a really hard task to do in Blender. I mean, it could be done. It would take a lot more work. And again, that's one great thing about the CAD program of Plasticity. It's just easy to do things like this, forms and things, and add them back into an object, because it completely just smoothly does it. So yeah, there we go. So that's kind of the example of how do we work around this stuff. All right, so you'll see that I've actually got the prior object, and I've added like a couple of subdivisions on this. I think it's like 2 and 2, so it's very, detailed. Now, if you kind of go to statistics, you can see that, this one is kind of hard to see right now, but if I go into this mode here, you should be able to see this is actually like around 3,000 something faces, with this. Now, if I go here, this is about 91,000. So again, you're going to add a lot more detail, but of course, you're going to have a lot of roundness, a lot of other things. And yeah, that's kind of how it works. So this is one of the reasons why you want to use Splines, because you can easily add in these deformations and cleanly put it in, take an object, bring it in. So again, more options, opportunities for fun forms as you create this stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's just really easy to do. It's easy to add stuff, and you don't have to go back. The form fits exactly the prior form. So you can model your stuff in like Blender or Lightwave or something like that, and then bring it into Plasticity and then add that other detail as needed. So it just makes it simple, and your forms will fit fine. Plus you got your organic fill without having to do a lot of work. I mean, yes, you could do this in, of course, Plasticity. It would take a little bit of effort though to, if you want to do like concepting and you want to do something quickly, it's really easy to pull, points and polys around than it is to try to get the splines to connect properly. Yeah, just some things to think about. Of course, you could put a spline here and spline there, and you could do all that too. It just depends on how you want to model this. But again, there's just different opportunities here to work this out. All right. Well, I hope you like this type of information in this kind of tutorial. If you do, thumbs up, and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day.